Leonardo DiCaprio, a man who became a global superstar before he could legally drink, a man who has dated some of the most beautiful and famous women alive, a man whose face has been on more billboards, magazines, posters, and memes than any actor in his generation. And yet, a man who, now at 51, stands alone as one of Hollywood's most eligible bachelors, still unmarried, still without a wedding ring, still silent whenever people ask, why won't Leonardo DiCaprio settle down? For years, the world has speculated, joked, debated, and analyzed everything about Leonardo's personal life. Fans created timelines, tabloids wrote endless stories, interviewers tried to sneak in subtle questions, hoping he might slip up and reveal something. But Leonardo stayed quiet. He always kept the real reasons hidden, protected, locked behind that calm, charming smile he wears like armor. Until now, because at 51 years old, Leonardo DiCaprio has finally begun opening up carefully, subtly about why marriage has never happened for him. And the truth is far more emotional, more complicated, and more human than anyone expected. To understand the real story, you have to go back, far back, before the Oscars, before Titanic, before the fame explosions and the paparazzi storms, before he became Leo. You have to look at Leonardo Wilhelm DiCaprio, the child. Leonardo grew up in a world that wasn't picked. He wasn't raised in a Beverly Hills mansion or a gated estate shielded from everyday problems. He grew up in Los Angeles, yes, but not the Hollywood fantasy version. His childhood neighborhoods had crime, struggle, and a lot of people fighting just to survive. His parents separated when he was very young, but unlike many Hollywood separations, they stayed supportive, loving, and involved in his life. Still, the emotional imprint of a divided home shapes a child quietly, deeply, and permanently. Leonardo has spoken about it in pieces over the years, enough to understand that seeing a relationship fall apart during his earliest years left a mark. He watched two loving adults become two people living separate lives. He watched how fragile relationships can be, how unpredictable life becomes when love dissolves, how a family can remain a family, but never in the same way again. For some people, childhood is a fountain of innocence. For others, it is a lesson. For Leonardo, it was a warning. Growing up the way he did made him fiercely protective of stability, especially emotional stability. And the older he became, the more the world began trying to define him, push him, mold him, and chase after him. By the time he was a teenager, he was already famous. By the time he was in his early 20s, he was one of the most recognizable faces in the world. And by the time he hit 25, he had already lived through one of the biggest cinematic explosions of fame ever created, Titanic. Imagine being 23 when the world suddenly treats you like royalty. Imagine being unable to walk outside without crowds forming. Imagine every relationship you have being photographed, judged, dissected, and multiplied by thousands of news outlets. Dating, for Leonardo, was never normal. Relationships were never private. His personal life became public property before he even understood what his adult identity was. And that's where the true complications began. Leonardo DiCaprio has dated some of the most famous models, actresses, and public figures in the world. The media has made jokes about it. Social media has turned it into a punchline. But behind all the noise is a man navigating relationships under a level of scrutiny almost no one can truly understand. There were times in his life when he genuinely have tried to build something stable, long-term relationships that lasted years, not months. But with every serious relationship came the same cycle. Paparazzi vans parked outside homes, rumors published weekly, insider sources claiming to know everything, and endless questions about marriage, pressure, expectation, public invasion. Every time Leonardo took a woman to a premiere, the world jumped forward several steps and asked him when the wedding was. Every time he lived his life normally, the world demanded the next chapter. If he broke up, he was criticized. If he stayed, he was criticized. If he kept his private life private, he was criticized. At some point, Leonardo realized something important. If he married, the pressure would not disappear, it would intensify. But that's not the only reason. Because when Leonardo finally began speaking about marriage in interviews over the years, in small hints, careful comments, thoughtful reflections, a pattern appeared. He talked about something most people overlook: timing. For years, Leonardo has said that he wasn't ready, not emotionally, not mentally, and not in terms of a life he was living. He believed in love, he believed in relationships, but marriage was a commitment he refused to enter half-heartedly, and he wasn't ashamed to admit that his work came first. He was obsessed with acting, filmmaking, and storytelling. But beyond that, he had another love, a passion stronger than almost anything else in his life: environmental activism. This is where the truth becomes clearer. Leonardo isn't just an actor. He's a man who has spent decades traveling to the most fragile environments on Earth, meeting indigenous tribes, speaking to scientists, standing on melting glaciers, funding conservation projects, and building a foundation dedicated to saving the planet. His life is chaotic, fast-paced, unpredictable. He travels constantly. He works tirelessly. He invests his time in causes that demand emotional energy, financial resources, and huge commitments for Leonardo. Marriage isn't something you just fit into a lifestyle like that. It's something that requires full presence, something he has never been willing to approach casually. He said it best once, in a quiet admission that many fans overlooked. "I just haven't gotten there yet. Not never. Not I don't believe in it. Not I refuse, just not yet." And now, at 51, Leonardo has begun to share more openly that his past decisions weren't about avoiding love, they were about protecting it. Protecting it from the world, protecting it from the spotlight, protecting it from becoming another Hollywood casualty. He has seen marriages rise and fall around him. He has seen what fame does to relationships. He has watched friends struggle through divorces made worse by media scrutiny. He has experienced firsthand how hard it is to trust people when everyone wants something, a connection, a headline, a piece of his life. In his own way, Leonardo has always been searching for one thing: authenticity, real connection, real trust, real love. That doesn't come with flashing cameras or headlines or expectations. Some people spend years looking for the right partner. Leonardo spent decades looking for the right timing, but here's the twist. Now at 51, Leonardo seems more reflective than ever, more self-aware, more grounded, and in recent conversations, he's hinted that he finally understands why he avoided marriage for so long and how that reason is changing. He admits that he valued freedom intensely, the freedom to work, to travel, to grow, to explore, to evolve. He feared that marriage would confine him emotionally or creatively, freezing him in place when he was still figuring out who he truly was. But now he feels different, he talks differently, he reflects differently. As he's gotten older, he's become more open about wanting stability, but the kind of stability that feels genuine, not forced by expectation. He speaks about partnership, connection, and emotional peace with a softness he didn't have in his 20s or 30s. And the most shocking thing is this: Leonardo DiCaprio never avoided marriage because he didn't believe in it. He avoided it because he respected it too much to take it lightly. For some people, marriage is a next step. For Leonardo, it was a promise, and he refused to make a promise until he was certain he could keep it. At 51, Leonardo DiCaprio remains one of the most fascinating enigmas in Hollywood. He's a superstar in every sense of the word, critically acclaimed, globally recognized, endlessly admired. Yet he is also a man surrounded by mysteries. And the biggest one is a question that has been whispered for decades. Why won't Leo get married? For years, this question clung to him like a shadow. It didn't matter where he went, whom he dated, or what project he was working on. The curiosity followed him everywhere. And the world answered that question with jokes, memes, assumptions, and endless speculation. But the real answer, the one Leonardo has finally begun revealing, is far more emotional than any headline ever captured. To truly understand it, you have to step into Leonardo's world, not the world of fame, not the world of mansions and premieres, but the world behind closed doors, the world shaped by childhood, life lessons, heartbreaks, fears, passions, and the heavy weight of expectations. Because Leonardo DiCaprio didn't avoid marriage because he didn't care. He avoided it because he cared too much. Let's go deeper. From the very beginning, Leonardo lived two versions of life at the same time. On one side, there was the glamour, modeling jobs, acting auditions, his mother driving him across Los Angeles for every opportunity, the sense that he was meant for something extraordinary. On the other side, there was reality, and reality was not easy. He grew up in neighborhoods where danger wasn't a story on the news. It was right outside the front door. He saw the struggles of everyday people. He saw the cracks in relationships, the tension inside homes, the way love can exist and still fall apart. His parents separated early, but they remained supportive and present. Still, the image of two people who loved him deeply yet could not stay together left a quiet mark, a mark that didn't break him, but shaped the way he saw commitment. For many kids, divorce is just another event. For Leonardo, it became a silent teacher. It taught him that love is fragile. It taught him that families can break even when the love remains. It taught him that promises are powerful, and that breaking them can change lives. This early experience made him cautious, not scared, just painfully aware. And then Hollywood arrived like a tidal wave. By the time Leonardo hit his teenage years, casting agents were calling, directors were fighting over him, producers were predicting that he was going to be something rare, and they were right. Leonardo became one of the most talented actors of his generation, the kind who we could take a character and breathe life into it in ways that made audiences forget they were watching a movie. But with talent came fame, and with fame came pressure. One film changed everything: Titanic. There are actors who become famous, and then there are actors who become legends overnight. Leonardo DiCaprio became the latter at 23. He went from being a rising actor to being the face of global obsession. Girls screamed his name, boys wanted to be him, paparazzi hunted him, magazines couldn't print his pictures fast enough. The world didn't just watch him, they claimed him, and that kind of fame is a double-edged sword. It brings opportunity, success, wealth, influence. It also brings something else, something most people don't understand until it's too late. It takes away your privacy. Your personal life becomes entertainment. Your relationships become headlines. Your heartbreaks become gossip. Your choices become jokes. Leonardo wasn't just famous, he was consumed by fame, and his personal life was never his again. Every relationship he entered came with a spotlight so bright, it barely left room for intimacy. Every girlfriend he had was compared, critiqued, and examined. Every date became a story. Every breakup became a news cycle. Don't imagine trying to build something real in a world where people analyze the time you spent together, the outfits you wore, the places you visited, and even the expressions on your faces. Most people date privately. Leonardo dated under a microscope that the world didn't see the emotional toll. They only saw the headlines. Now, imagine a young man trying to navigate fame, pressure, career demands, and emotional vulnerability all at once. Imagine trying to figure out who you are when the world insists it already knows. That kind of pressure can quietly alter the way a person views commitment, not in a negative way but in a deeply cautious one. Leonardo has hinted at this many times. In scattered interviews, subtle comments, careful answers, he has revealed a truth piece by piece. He has said that he wants marriage to be meaningful. He has said that he won't do it just because people expect him to. He has said that it needs to be emotionally ready. He has said that timing matters. He has said that marriage requires a version of himself he wasn't ready to give. When he said that, he wasn't talking about fear, he was talking about respect. He didn't want to enter marriage half-formed, half-sure, or half-ready. He wanted to be whole. For Leonardo, marriage is not a formality. It's not a checkbox. It's not something you do because the world insists it's time. He sees it as a promise, a sacred one, and he knew that if he took that promise lightly, he could hurt someone, he could fail someone, he could repeat the emotional pattern he witnessed as a child. And Leonardo DiCaprio is too self-aware to pretend that a wedding ring magically solves everything. But that's only a part of the story, because while the world obsessed over his love life, Leonardo was busy building something entirely different. A purpose. Acting. That was only one side of him. The other side, the side he rarely talks about in depth, was his mission to fight for the planet. For decades, Leonardo DiCaprio has traveled to remote regions across the globe, visiting endangered ecosystems, meeting with environmental leaders, and using his fame to shine a spotlight on issues most people never think about. While the world joked about his dating life, he was speaking at the United Nations. While tabloids speculated about his relationships, he was funding conservation projects across the world. While social media made memes about him, he was standing on melting glaciers filming documentaries about climate change. That is a man who sees his time on Earth as more than romance and red carpets. He is driven by something bigger, something that requires sacrifice. Something that consumes energy, time, and emotional bandwidth. And he has said openly that marriage requires time he didn't always have. Leonardo didn't want to drag someone into a life where he was constantly traveling, constantly filming, constantly shifting between worlds. He didn't want to be a husband who was physically present but emotionally exhausted. He didn't want to marry someone while living a lifestyle that made genuine connection nearly impossible. He chose honesty. He chose self-awareness. He chose to prioritize mental clarity over public expectations. But now things are changing. At 51, Leonardo DiCaprio is no longer the young superstar navigating a storm of fame. He is calmer, more reflective, more grounded, more private, more intentional, and in recent interviews, his tone has changed, his answers have softened, his reflections have deepened. He talks about life differently now. He talks about purpose differently. He talks about relationships differently. For the first time in decades, he sounds ready, not because pressure finally got to him, not because age forced a decision. Not because critics kept making jokes, but because he finally grew into the version of himself he always believed marriage required. He speaks about wanting deeper connection. It speaks about appreciating stability, speaks about being more selective, not out of fear, but out of maturity. He speaks like a man who has finally understood what he wants and what he can give. Maybe Leonardo DiCaprio never avoided marriage. Maybe he was simply waiting to become the man who could embrace it fully. And now, at 50, that chapter might finally be opening. Disclaimer: the content in this video is based on publicly available information, media sources, and opinions. It is created for entertainment and educational purposes only. We do not claim or guarantee that every detail is 100% accurate.